Hey Bears, welcome to the realm of Magic 2. No, seriously. Welcome back to coding a 2D side-scrolling platformer in GameMaker Studio tutorial series. I'm Simon, and today we're going to look at a couple of things. There's some small fixes, which will be the first thing we're going through. Some very minor things. Then we have this, which you probably can see is clearly new. Which is our level selection screen, and a simple thing this does is when you select a level and you go through it, boom 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 boom, whoopsie, and go there, you have a new level unlocked, and that's pretty much just what it does. It allows you to also chain levels together and stuff like that, so you have like 10 levels of in this one, and then you get to the next one, unlock the next one, and stuff like that. But simple build, I have only created one extra level in this case, and then if you press this one, it's another level, as you can see. But the last thing is a thing up in the corner here. You can see there is a HUD up here. Sorry, there's two things. There's this HUD up there, which is and if you see up in the other corner now, you can see another small HUD element, and you can see it count down my power-ups and stuff like that, and it stacks on top of each other. If we take the last one, you'll see that now we have all three for a moment, and two again. But that's just to show you how to make a HUD which is not scaling with the view. You can see it's still the same size as before, just bigger compared to the rest of the screen, and doesn't change at all. So that's what this will show you. And the last thing is, if you press escape, book, you have this pause screen. If you press escape again, it will just resume. The same if you press resume, it will resume, funny enough. And if you press leave, you will leave the level. And of course, if you are already out, if you haven't unlocked the second level yet, you cannot just like enter the first level and then leave. That will not unlock the next level. You have to go through the level and finish it before you get the new level. So let's just jump right into it. Okay, so if we start with the sprites, the new sprites in this tutorial, we have the sprite victory, which is used for our new victory win the room object. That's just one way to say the level is complete, a place thing. Very simple build, I'll show you in a moment. And then we have a health bar here, which is consistent of two parts: the background and the health bar itself, which will deplete. And again, pretty simple, and the code will do the rest, making it go down as you lose health gradually. And then we have the the pause resume, which is just a large resume text, and pause leave, which is just a large leave text. Pretty simple. You could use text for these as well, but I'm just using sprites because then you can customize them a little more than the text without too much code. And then we have the sprite worlds, which is our world icons on our map. And then as you have more levels, you can just fill this up with more and more icons. Or you could use individual sprites for each world, so they can be animated or something like that. Could be cool with like the rain here going animated down, or if they were in motion or something like that. But for now I just use this. It's pretty easy to alter. And I guess that was all for the sprites. Then for the backgrounds, I have created a back map, which is just 640 times 480. And then I have chosen to tick off tile horizontal and tile vertical. This will solve some problems with showing some glitching lines and stuff like that in the game. If you ever ran into those, you know what I'm talking about, but this will make them so it works better. Also, I have created some texture groups, or one texture group. When you're creating your game, if you have like multiple worlds where, for example, you have a jungle world, a fire world, an ice world, or something like that, it's a good idea to have like everything from one world in one texture group, so that the game only have to load in that texture group for using those backgrounds. And then for the rest, all the things you will use repeatedly in the game, you can just put in default or in some other texture groups where they're gathered. But if you have something you only use in one world or one place in the or in the tutorials part or something of the game, it's a good idea to have the world one or have the individual texture groups. So if you do not know it, you just go to the texture groups in here and create them. So that's pretty simple, easy to do. But we have added this back map, and then I have added back test level 2, and as you can see, it's just a mirrored version of level 1, just to show you how you can have different levels having the same overall background. For example, if you are in the same world, you might maybe want to have the same series of levels. Then you might want to have these mountains in the background all the time, so you know you are in the same place, but just different places in that place, if that makes sense. And then you can, in that way, choose which things you want to switch out and which you want switch out. But that's for the backgrounds, and then we have the rooms down here, where I have added room map, where we are now creating the global controller. And a new object called object map controller, I'll come back to that, and the object worlds, which is what we press to go into the levels. And you can just place these object worlds anywhere I want to have them there. I have made this persistent, so it remembers which one is how things are here, if they were fading or what they weren't, and also so it doesn't create a new object global controller every time we get back here, because object global controller is persistent and we don't want multiple of those. But yeah, and then I have added world 2 here, of course, where I tried to fill in most of the, so on the 2 parts here we have most of the different features of the game engine here, so that should show off a lot of things here. We both have moving platforms. I haven't put in a lever anywhere, but my thoughts are for when I'm done with this tutorial series, I only think I'm gonna make sound, add sound to the game, and then I'm done with this series, and then I will make, at least for a while, just make individual tutorials for specific functionalities in how you do different game aspects. It's a little hard to make a series because sometimes how things works depends on how the rest of the engine is. So sometimes it's just better to make something you can incorporate into almost anything. So yeah, so I have divided these 2 rooms, created them so they work out for themselves, and that's for the rooms. So now let's go into the actual stuff. Okay, well, technically the other things was also actual stuff, but now the actual objects and stuff like that, what we have implemented with these new resources and stuff like that. The small changes here I have in this project is in the object player and in the moving platform. In the object player I have simply moved this code. If you remember, before it was out in the room when you in the right click code when you press the object. I added this code, but since we are going to have this code in every player object when we use them, then you might as well just have this code in the creation code. So it's always centered on the player if he's in use. So I've chosen to do that. And again, you can just keep it in the creation code or the right-click code if you want that. It's not something that important where you place it in this case. This made it easier for this purposes, but if you want some camera to track stuff and stuff like that, it may be easier to put this in there instead. But anyway, the other thing is a small thing. I had forgotten that they had added this function. Now let's see, sprites. Down here with when you're swimming, the draw angle. They have added this recently in the GameMaker Studio, they added an angle difference. So instead of that very long piece of code using modulus and stuff like that, you can simply use angle difference and use that to gradually turn your object toward a new direction. So this is the current direction the player is facing, the draw angle is, and we want to gradually turn it towards the swim direction, and we do that by this, the difference between the two angles divided with 16. So it's pretty easy, and the same down here, if you remember, the plus 180 because we are mirroring our sprite, but other than that, same code once more. So that was the changes in the player object. You can see not huge changes. You can still use the old code. It's not something groundbreaking this time. So the old code and the old things worked as well, just as well. This just to make it easier to use. Also, the angle difference function is great, because if you want like homing missiles and stuff like that, there's an easy way to gradually turn the object now. So that's cool. And the other thing, small change we made was the object moving platform, where we have changed the code to use solid place instead of a place meeting. So now it also can bump into ghost platforms if it comes from above, of course. So that's pretty cool. Also, you can just go back to place meeting if you don't want it to interact with ghost platforms and eyes and stuff like that. But now it interacts with all solid objects as everything else does. So that's that. And then we have changed the parent to parsolid ghost. So now the moving platform is a ghost platform itself. So you can jump up on it from below, like go through it from below again, and then land on top of it. Again, a choice you can make to make it solid again, but often in games you assume you can jump up on the platforms like that, so why not have it like that as well? Also, then you will not be crushed below when the moving platforms goes down, so that's fine, I guess. But that was the small changes we have, so now let's go to the big deals. I'll start off with the level selection, and as I showed you before, just a recap here. You start off, for example, here with only one level available, and then when you have beat that level, a new one will appear. And this is not really a focus on how to make this fancy and pretty and stuff like this. This is very simply done using image alpha and changing that to use the select effect here. It's not made to be pretty. This is a base engine for you. You can build upon this map, make lines between levels or something like that. This is just to show how you can do it with different levels that unlock, and it simply is what I want to show here. So let's jump into it. The easiest thing to understand right now is in the games we have the new interactable, which is the win sign you saw the sprite of before. The code is very simple. It has two variables, next room and unlock world, and right now I've set next room to be a room map as a standard because we wanted to go back to the map room. You need to of course change this to fit your own game. If you just wanted to go to the next room, you just do that. So that's not really a big problem. You can just write room next here and then room, and you will get the next room. So it's not hard to do. And then we have unlock world, and that's -1. And what that does is simply it tells which world to unlock if on the map out back, and this value is simply just the name of the room, the first room in that series of levels that you want to do. So that's pretty easy. And then on collision with the player, it simply goes to the room, and if you have selected a world to unlock, then it will add that world to a list called open worlds. It will add that room to that list, and that list is simply something we have created in the global controller here. It's a global variable open world DSList create, and we start off adding room world 1 to that list. And that's pretty simple. Every room you add to that list and they will be unlocked on the map. I'll come back to that in a moment. And to change the things in the map, if you go to the map here, you can just go to the creation code here and set whoops, that's not important anymore yet. Sorry, I meant to the room where the sign is. Go to the creation code, and if you want to just change what to unlock, you do that. If you also want to, you maybe want to have like a series of levels before you come back to the map, so you have like these different worlds, as this is designed to help making. Then you can just say whoops, next room equals room world 2.1, which is our other map, and then you will just go through to the next map automatically instead. Let me show you. Then when you are going through this map, you will simply come to the next level. Whoops, I think I wrote the wrong thing in. But to the next level you have chosen. I think I wrote, yeah, world 1 instead of world 2 here. But you got the idea. Now it just went back to the same room once more. Of course we don't want that normally in the game, but so you can easily make like so the rooms succeed each other and make a small layout of levels before getting back to the map and select the next world or something like that. So that's pretty easy and pretty cool and pretty fancy. Then our main object of our map is object map controller, which is doesn't really have a lot of code here. That simply control the map, and you will need to build on upon this. It might be you have like to show different things on the map and blah blah blah, and you can do that. But right now it simply controls the pan, sets the view, so it will scroll with the mouse. So you even if you have the right ratio, you have the whole map on the display here. Maybe you made a view smaller than the whole map so you could go around. And now there's no problem, but if we make this wider, our code from the view will... Okay, now it works. Sorry about that, pals, but now it will pan the view depending on the mouse position. So that's nice. And the code is way simpler than before actually. It simply clamps the value between these two. I'm using min max here. You can just use clamp as well, just as easy. And it simply says the mouse X position divided with the room width times the room width minus the view W view. So it will make sure that if your mouse is in the extreme bottom, then it will show the bottom of the page. If it's in the extreme top, it will show the top. This was horizontally, this is vertically. It's the same, just with Y and height instead, and H of course. So pretty simple code we have in this one. Shouldn't make a lot of trouble for anyone. I don't know why I overcomplicated it in the other code, but now it works without problem. And the other main part here is our object world. We have a depth below our map controller, and in case we want to use something with our map controller, and we have image speed set to 0, image alpha set to 0, and world, which is which world we're going to enter into if we press it, is -1. And then in the end step event here, we have this select code here, and this I've made this so it reacts its state depending on the image alpha. So if image alpha is less than 0.5 and the mouse is hovering above this, then the image alpha will increase with 0.1. If not, this is true, then if the image alpha is above 0.5, then it will decrease by 0.1. So it will gradually fade up and down depending on either if the cursor is above it or below it. Then here we clamp the value image alpha to between 1 and 0, 0 and 1. So now it will only stay between these two values, so either it's invisible or not. Right now the value will always be between 0.5 and 1 because we do not go below 0.5 up here. But that will happen down here if we haven't set a world for this, so if it's -1 or if it is not in our the world we have chosen, if it's not in the... Sorry, back. 2 mistakes. Whew, I'm getting old. Anyway, this should of course be world. If there is not this world in our open worlds list, so if it's not unlocked yet, then image alpha will be set to 0, so the world is gone and you cannot press on it. If position meeting mouse over, so if the mouse is over our icon here, and if the mouse button is pressed and image alpha is above 0.5, so if our world is unlocked, then room go to world, then we'll go to the world, start the level. So again, pretty easy. Okay, 2 things left. We have the HUD here, and one thing to note here is that the effects stack up in the corner here, and health will decline. I'll show you that if we go to another room in a moment. But that's the only 2 HUD elements I've created, but they will pretty much explain everything you need to know how to add elements to a HUD. So if we leave this room and go back to this one where we have an enemy ready here, you will see that we will slowly lose health up here as it trumps into us, and it will like smoothly go down. So that's pretty nice, I think. And when we reach 0, whoops, I was pushed into the sign. Cool. Anyway, let's just quickly die here. So there's nothing really new with that. Only thing new is the HUD itself, and with the HUD a couple of variables which is not necessarily needed. But why did I didn't reach one there? Okay, that was nothing. The small error there. For some reason the mask of the player dying sprite was had reset, so it was going into the solid objects, and that made a bug. But now I've reset it to what we have made in an earlier episode, the mask we used there, and it works fine. So yeah, I don't know what happened there, but maybe it's a synchronization error between when I'm working on this both on this computer and my laptop, so maybe something has happened there. Anyway, the HUD is drawn in the draw GUI event, and by using the draw GUI event it will not resize if the view resizes, and I like that effect. If you want it to be drawn where it resizes with the view, you just need to change it up a little bit, like drawing it depending on the view X view and view Y Y view positions instead of starting from 0. Because when drawing in the draw GUI event, the top left corner is always 0, and the bottom left corner is always it pixel per pixel counting. So the width of the window, the port viewport, is always whatever size it will draw position it will draw it on. So I'm using the draw GUI to draw the HUD here, but you can use the just normal draw event if you want, and it will not make big problems. Only you need to change some small things. Anyway, let's just get into it. We simply draw the health bar up here, the first subimage of it, so the background for the health. And then if a par player exists, so if our player is existing, then it will set the HP HUD and max HP HUD variables. And these variables we have created up here, and we have a new part down here called GUI. Sorry, that should be HUD. Head-up display. And they are simply what we are going to display for health. Reason being, if you want to, you can just skip this part and just write in power player HP and power player max HP, and it will show directly what you have for health. By doing this, it will gradually, you can see we use the lerp here to gradually go from whatever I'm displaying right now to the actual health. So it will like slowly drain the health bar instead of showing instantly. If you make another super image in the sprite and make it red, for example, you can make it slowly drain, but you can have this overlay where it shows the actual health if you want. But anyway, by using these variables, setting them to power player max HP and going slowly towards what the player HP is right now, it will slowly drain, and that's what I'm using it for. Then we're doing with object player, and this is because the reason I'm not writing power player right now is because if we had multiple different players and we wanted to draw the things in different ways, then this wouldn't work. If we, for example, if only one type of player could pick up one type of power up, then there was no reason to draw all the power ups, because then the code will not be there, the power up speed variable, stuff like that. So this is you can either, if you want to, you can just write power player here if you want it to be the same for all your player variants if you have multiple, and then there's no reason to make different blocks. But if you have two different, if you have multiple player variants and you want them to be different, then you will have to like copy paste and make different blocks for everyone. So that depends on you. That's why I've created like this, because then you know what to change if it is. It creates a temporary variable offset, which is 0, and that's used to when we have multiple, when we up in the corner here have multiple icons, then we want to know which offset we want to move the icons down, so they're not overlaying each other. So this will count up in the code here, this offset variable. Then we set the font to a new font we have created. Should have introduced this and start, but font power up, which is just you can make anything you want, but just so we have a custom font for the power up counter in the right size and stuff like that. Sorry, my throat is a little annoying today. And we set the font. We set it to align vertically at the bottom and horizontally at the center, and we set the color to white. Alpha is 1, of course. You should always reset alpha to 1 after drawing something, so it should be 1 as a standard, and unless you're going for some specific effect, but and then it simply goes through if power up speed is bigger than 0. So if we have that power up right now, then it will draw the icon in a sea gray color and half transparent, so it's not too harsh against the white text, so you can actually read the white text on top of it. But it will draw the icon at viewport view vertical. We view width port -26, so in the side of the screen, and then 29 plus 35 times offset down. So right now there should be no offset, so it will just be in the top corner. But then for the next one here, same code. In the end here it will plus offset with 1. Same here. So if we already had the power up speed, then it will times this with 1. So that will be a little down and this one. If we have with 2 others, then a little down from that as well. But if we had none of the others and get the power-up jump, then it will be up in top, and so it will always be in this order if you have multiple power-ups, but that's fine, I think. So that's one way to display your power-ups with a counter. It draws the text here, and it simply says power-up jump divided with room speed, because that's how many seconds you have left, and we seal it so it's rounded, because we don't want any 1,112 or something like that. But yeah, pretty simple, and we draw that just on top of it. So if you want to, this corner is 0 always when you're drawing in the GUI draw. This up here, the width of the image is a view W port, the port of the screen, you know. And if you wanted something drawn in the bottom, you could use view H port, so it will draw on the bottom. So that's just something to remember when you're doing this. If you were doing the standard draw event, you would write, instead of 0, you draw view X view, and if you wanted it on the side, you will say view X view plus view W view instead of view W port. So this is a little shorter down in here, which is nice, and it just doesn't scale. But then, if there is no player, then HP HUD will lerp towards 0, so it will drain itself. And the last part here is the other half of our health bar, which we're using draw sprite part, and we're drawing sprite health bar first sub image. Left we're going 5 pixels in, because that's where our health bar start, and you just go through a sprite and see where it starts. For the top we just go 0, because that doesn't really matter. For the width we go 91, because our health bar sprite, how can I say this? If we have our sprite here, we have our background here, and then in here we have our actual health bar. Our 4 pixels in, that's here, our actual health bar starts, so that's where we're going to draw from, as I said down here. And then from here there is 91 pixels to the end. So this position is actually 95, but that makes our health bar width 91. So we're going to draw that and divide that with max HP HUD. So divide it with our maximum HP and times our current HP. So that makes so it will cut it off at whatever rate our HP is at. And then it will just draw 32, because our whole sprite is 32 high, and at 4 and 0 position, because we are drawing from the 4th pixel on, so that will be our new 0. So we need to put it in 4 again to make it work out with our underlay up here, so they are aligning on top of each other. But that's the HUD. Again, pretty simple stuff we're doing here, not too advanced. The last thing is our pause, and our pause is controlled by this object, object pause. When you create this object, it will deactivate all other objects, so it's the only object there. That's the first part. In that way, it instead of shifting room or something like that, everything is at where it was when you unpause again. So deactivate all objects, and then it will do some surface stuff. And the surface stuff is a little hard to understand, because how do I explain this? From the in GameMaker Studio, they have changed how surfaces works. So in one way they work in a more logical manner, but only if you know how surfaces actually work. If you were just to draw, you know there is this new application surface, which is what the game screen is actually what that's, if you took a screenshot, it will copy this application surface. But if you just draw that to another surface, then because of the way things are drawn on top of each other, it will make problems making some weird lines and stuff like that. And that's because when it draws something new on top of each other, it will override the alpha values of the sides and stuff like that. So if you do not use any alpha in your sprites, it will not show any problems. Like in my Flappy Bird engine, I'll just put it down here. And there I do it without these things, without the alpha blend and the color right enable stuff. You'll see, I'll tell about it in a moment. And but if you have alpha, then you need to do this to override, so it will not override the alpha values. So what we do is we create a new temporary surface called BS for what was it abbreviation for? It was background surface. It was not bullshit. Don't worry. And then we create that in the same width and height as the application surface. We set it as a target. We draw clear black, so now it's all black, our surface. Then we toggles alpha blending off, draw enable alpha blend false. This makes so when we are drawing, it shouldn't draw the alpha, it shouldn't override the alpha, but it doesn't work alone for some reason, and I'm not sure of this. Another way to do this is draw set color right enable, and then these 4 values is the 4 color values. We have red, green, blue, and alpha, and for some reason this should work theoretically, in my head at least, alone as well, but for some reason it didn't. So I'm using both together and then it works. And honestly, I cannot answer why it doesn't work individually, but it works like this. What this does is it tells that we only want to override the red, the green, and the blue, and we do not want to override the alpha. And you can use this function for multiple things. If you want to draw something where you only want to use the red in the image, then you can just only toggle red and then toggle the other false, and it will only draw the red channel of the image you're drawing. So that's a pretty cool function, also newer I think, or pretty new at least. Anyway, then after toggling these two things, we are drawing the surface. We're drawing the application surface to our new service, so we have a copy of our application service. Again, you may say, why didn't you just use surface copy? But again, that didn't work, and I couldn't get it to work even with these functions. So I'm doing this way. I'm not completely into the logic of how surfaces work. I thought I was, but then it didn't work anyway, as I thought anyway, and so now I'm here. But I got it to work with this code, and after drawing the surface, we just reset the two functions. So we set all the channels to true again, to drawing true, and we set alpha blend to true again, and then we reset the target so that we are out of the surface drawing right now. And now we have a surface containing our application surface, but without graphical glitches. So now we make a sprite from it using sprite create from surface. We use the background surface 0, 0 as our positions. We want the whole image, and width and height we just say surface get width and surface get height. So we want the whole surface again, and we do not want to remove the background. We don't want it to be smooth, and we just want the origin to be 0, 0. And then we free the surface. So now we have a sprite for our pause. Our pause sprite index is our screenshot actually, and you can use this code up here to make a screenshot of the room if you want in any way, but it's great for pause at least. Now, the next part. If you are just using backgrounds and no foregrounds, then you don't really need this. But if you at any point are using foregrounds, we want to be able to toggle them off, or else they will draw on top of our pause, and we don't really want that. So I have this array called bvis, background visible, and it loops through all our backgrounds and takes their visibility value, so we can see if this background is visible, we'll copy that attribute to our variable here, and then it turns the backgrounds off. By doing this, we toggle them off, but we can remember which backgrounds was visible and which was not. And then it creates all the menu points, the menu items, which is other objects, object pause resume, and object pause leave. And it simply places them 0, 0 because they will position themselves in a moment when we go to these objects in their create events. They will position themselves. When we are destroying the object pause, we will then go out of pause again. Then it will activate all instances again. It will delete the sprite index so the sprite is not taking up memory, and it will set all background visibility to whatever they was before pausing. So these two events, when you create the pause, object pause, it will pause the game. When you destroy object pause, it will unpause the game. That's a pretty easy way to make it. Now, to unpause, if you press escape, it will unpause, and then it will just say instance destroy, so that it destroys itself. And in the draw event here, it simply draws the sprite stretched to fill the screen, but blended with sea gray, so it's toned down a little towards black. And one thing which is a little sad with this is that when you start up and use it, pause, if you resize the screen while this happens, it will stretch the image, the paused image. You can see now the image is stretched, but if you unpause, it will just set it as it should be. So it's a little annoying, but that's the best way I could make it with this. You could make a lot of variables to control whether objects are active instead and make them still be there, but this is really the better, simpler way to make it. So that's the only downside of that way. Now the two buttons here, the resume and the leave, is they're depth below the object pause, so they're drawn on top of our sprite. And then they simply have the sprite of whatever they are. On create, they place themselves according to the view. So view, this one will be drawn in the center of the screen and 2/5 down, and the other one will be drawn 3/5 down, but again in the center of the screen. Their code is almost identical, so there's only reason to go through main of one of them. In the step event, if you press on it, if the mouse is over this object and you're pressing, then it will, with object pause, instance destroy. So it will destroy the pause and thus stop pausing. And in end step, it will simply, if there is no object pause anymore, it will destroy itself. So in this way, you could also just put this after this of here, but just for continuity, I will have it down here because that is easier when you have multiple objects. And the other one, same with these things. The only change in here is instead of destroying pause, it will go to room map, thus changing what level you are in. And that's actually how it works. Everything I've created in this part. Next time I'm going to, I think I'm going to add some sounds, how to make a sound system for a platformer here. And yeah, it's I'm not gonna add sounds to everything in the game. I will try something like I will add a music track which will change depending on what room you are in and stuff like that, to show how to make that, I think. And then I will add some sound effects to some objects to show you how you could interact with stuff. So you get the overall idea how to add sound to stuff, but I see no reason to go through everything. It will make for a too long video, repeating the same thing. Then I added sound here, then I added sound here, then I added sound here, then I added sound. You get it. But yeah, that would be all for this time. I really hope you have enjoyed this video. It's always good if you write in the comments what you liked, what you didn't like, and if you have any questions, also write them. Or just, if you got any comments, write them. I love to read comments and answer them, so that will make me very happy. Also, if you liked it, please press the like button so I have an indicator of it, and if you disliked it, please press the dislike button. But really, this is all. I hope you have enjoyed this video. I will see you in another one. Bye! Whoa! You seem to be at the end of the video. If you liked this video, or even if you didn't, it would make me incredibly happy if you would just rate it. Either way, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching.